Story 1. Back in 8th grade, I went on a school trip called the Louisiana Tour. We visited a bunch of historic spots in southern Louisiana. One of those was Myrtle's Plantation, which is said to be among the most haunted places in the country. There are tons of stories about it. At one point, our group was standing in a room, and the tour guide was talking about something. I can't remember what exactly. I start to hear what sounds like someone hitting a piano key. I heard it a few times, looked around but didn't see any piano. It kept happening, so I asked my friends nearby if they heard it. They said no. After another key press, I said, "There it is again," assuming they must have heard it that time. But they didn't. They thought I was imagining things. I kept scanning the room, and eventually, I noticed a woman across the way looking at me. She pointed at me, then to her ear with a questioning expression. I nodded, realizing she heard it too. Right about then, the tour guide started telling a story about a soldier who died there, how people often reported hearing him play the piano at night. I didn't know what to think. Even now, I'm not sure. When we left the room, I talked to the woman, and she confirmed she had heard the exact same sound, but her husband and son hadn't heard a thing. Story 2. My school's library stays open until 2 a.m. for idiots like me who wait until the last minute to start essays. It's a small building, and most of the books are stored downstairs in the section known as the stacks. Here's the layout. Main stairs leading down to the stacks, a vending room, and a long hallway with 4 entrances into the stacks themselves. The stacks are 2 large rooms on either side of the hallway, filled with shelves and study desks along the walls. I was there around 11 p.m. last year, working on a research-heavy paper, trying to finish it in one of the study nooks so I didn't have to run upstairs constantly. I'd been there for a couple of hours. Everyone else had left, except for one guy working a few desks away. I was zoned out, panicking about the deadline. That's when I started hearing someone flipping through pages, loud, fast, like they were purposely making noise. I ignored it at first, thinking they'd stop, but they didn't. After about 5 minutes, I was fed up. I got up and started walking over to tell them to quit. But as soon as I took a few steps, the noise stopped. I sat back down. 10 minutes later, the sound started again, but louder, like they were flipping a huge book this time. The other guy got annoyed too. He stood and started walking through the shelves, trying to find the source. I joined him, and the noise kept going. We traced it. It was clearly coming from one spot. He was on one side of the shelf, I was on the other. We walked all the way through, nothing, nobody. There was no way anyone got in without us noticing. The noise suddenly stopped. We both just walked slowly back to our desks. I assumed it was just a fan or something in the other room, and I really needed to get my essay done. As soon as we sat back down, the sound started again, right next to the other guy's chair. He grabbed his stuff, looked at me, said, "Nope," and bolted. I was 5 seconds behind him. To this day, I refuse to go back into the stacks at night, even if other people are there. Story 3. I only remember this vaguely because I was really young, probably around 7. In our old house, my bedroom had its own floor. It wasn't even meant to be a bedroom, more like a converted attic space or an oversized closet. The previous owners had used it as a playroom for their daughters. My room also had a massive closet door that led straight into the attic. The closet was raised, with a short set of wooden stairs leading up to it. It had a big sliding door and was jammed full of toys and random childhood stuff. Being so young, I was often scared of being that far from the rest of my family, especially with that giant closet in the room. One night, after watching a horror movie with my family, I was lying in bed terrified. Then I heard a toy moving around inside the closet. I jumped up and ran straight to my parents' room. They checked and said no one was in there. Seeing how shaken I was, they let me stay with them that night. The following night, I had mostly forgotten about it, until I heard it again. This time, it sounded like a container of Legos had spilled all over the closet floor. Again, I rushed to my parents. My dad was getting frustrated, but let me sleep in their room once more. The next day, my mom and I went to inspect the closet. Sure enough, there was a pile of Legos dumped on the ground. I was convinced someone had been in there, but she told me the container probably just tipped over. That night, my dad locked their bedroom door, saying he was done with the nonsense. I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, frozen, listening for any sounds from the closet. About an hour later, it happened. The silence was shattered by the sound of the closet door sliding open with force. Moonlight poured in through the window, casting light on a figure standing by the open closet. I let out a blood-curdling scream. Pure terror washed over me, and I still remember that feeling to this day. The figure leapt down from the closet and bolted out of the room, out the front door. My mom raced up the stairs while my dad ran down to chase whoever it was, but he never caught them, and the police never found the man. Story 4. The layout of my bedroom was such that across from my bed was a small alcove, completely shadowed because my closet jutted out just enough to block both the ceiling light and any outside light. That corner was always pitch dark at night. I was in my 4th year of high school, lying in bed, unable to fall asleep. I kept getting that unsettling feeling, like someone is watching you. And this wasn't just nerves, it felt malevolent. I opened my eyes and they were immediately drawn to that black corner of the room. That's when I noticed a darker, hazier shape blending into the shadows. My skin broke out in goosebumps, but I told myself I was just seeing things. I shut my eyes and tried to force myself to sleep, but that feeling of something evil watching me didn't go away. Then I heard it. A faint creak. The kind of noise the floor makes when someone shifts their weight onto it. I opened my eyes again, and now that shadowy shape was in the opposite corner. All my senses screamed in terror. I threw my blanket and pillow over my head and cried silently, hoping that the thing wouldn't come closer. I know I wasn't dreaming or imagining it. Even now, remembering that moment gives me chills. Story 5. It was around Halloween when my friends and I were sharing ghost stories. One of my friends said she'd tell us about her parents' first date, though she didn't like to because it was actually true. We pushed her to go ahead. Her parents had a nice, though slightly awkward, first date. Right around the time they were saying goodnight, her dad suggested they go for a late-night hike up Provo Canyon. He was familiar with the area since he'd done a lot of climbing there. They drove to the canyon's entrance, got out, and started walking under a sky full of stars, no moon, so it was pretty dark. At some point, he started getting a weird feeling about the trail ahead, especially the part that passed under some trees. He brushed it off and kept walking. A minute later, that uneasy feeling hit him again. Still, he ignored it and stepped further under the tree cover. That's when his foot bumped into something soft in the middle of the path. It was too dark to see what it was, but that creepy feeling intensified. Instead of figuring out what he stepped on, they decided to head back immediately. Years later, after they were married, they were watching an interview with the serial killer Ted Bundy in response to a question asking him to describe the time that he felt the closest to being caught. He explained about the night that he lured a girl into Privacy Canyon and had just killed her when he heard some people coming up the trail. He explained how he hid in the trees just in time, only to watch some guy walk right into the body and for some reason just turn around and walk away.